The Imitation Nation podcast covers all things counterfeit, hosted by Shabir Imber-Safdar of the Partnership for Safe Medicines and Sven Bergman of Venture Global. All statements are their own and not the opinions of their employers. So welcome back, Sven, to Imitation Nation number 12. I think we had 2 number 10s and no number 11, so I think this is 12.
That's right. A proof of how much great content we put out that we lost count. So good to see you, sir.
It's good to see you. No one else can see us because we do our podcast recording on video, but we just publish the audio. But I will say the thing that has been most on my mind is I teased that I was going to talk about this New York pharmacy case where this pharmacy in New York was accused of distributing counterfeit and diverted medicine. And then I never did. I will say, though, that at Partnership for Safe Medicines, we actually published a video on this. It's the Heal the World case. That's the name of the pharmacy that's been accused of, but not convicted or admitted any guilt. And it's actually pretty disturbing. The products that Gilead claims that they obtained from a patient who got them from this pharmacy have a blatant typographical error on the label.
Wow.
It's bad enough when medicine bottles have been bought back from patients and sold, because that means the medicine's been in an unsafe pair of hands, unlicensed pair of hands, out of control. And it's also bad when they take an existing bottle and refill it with other medicine. But it's been a while since I've seen an actual fake label, because billion-dollar-plus companies don't make typos on their medicine labels.
They normally don't, no. Wow. It's not ripe yet. But there is rumors that OCDEF, our favorite task force, is potentially on the chopping block with all of these. And right now it's just a rumor, so we can cover it if it becomes more real. But some congressmen are speaking out. There's a proposal out there. And that would be a real shame because that's an agency and a task force that does amazing work. And so I really hope they don't end up on the chopping block.
I'm with you, but I did see one of the senior members of the leadership of OCDEF write his goodbye message on LinkedIn. So I was afraid that was the end of the road. We will see. My staff has told me that despite the fact that funding was cut, there are some elected officials, as you point out, asking about it. And so I hope it comes back, although that does not seem likely. And just to check, since I sent you those 3 letters, 2 with counterfeit stamps, you haven't met any postal inspectors at your door, have you?
No, but so actually funny you bring that up. So I have postal inspector contacts that I've worked with over the years, and I've emailed one of them that I was on a panel with for years. And I said, hey, listen, this was the canned response that Shabir got when he reported it. That doesn't make any sense. So at this point in time, I'm working with the regional supervisor of the Southwest region in Arizona. And they responded back this morning. They said, yes, although we received a canned response, this was the proper procedure to report it. The websites are very known. We know them. They bug us. We're working on taking them down. So, and then they also said the tracking numbers you provided, they looked at those, and the mail pieces also had fraudulent postage on them. So they put fake postage on their own postage that they sent to you. And the return addresses on the labels are also fake. So they already tracked all that. They're like, we can't get that. However, I'm right now working with them on saying that's all fine. Maybe Google shouldn't be accepting ad money from these websites. So the saga continues, but I'm now working with USPIS regional in the Southwest to say, maybe we just stop the large US companies from taking money from these folks.
Yeah, cut off their advertising angle and their revenue will plunge maybe. Well, I will just say, you've done yeoman's work here. Someone should be paying you for this.
It just annoys me. Like, why would you do this? I understand why they're doing it, but it just annoys me. It's so blatant, and I hate that large firms like Google take ad money for that. That's really what bugs me. I get that criminals will do criminal things. That's fine. They should be running at Google. So,
and it's not hard to figure out.
What's the first big thing you found for us?
Yeah, this week, well, in the last 2 to 3 weeks, there is this huge dark web bust of fake pill sellers. And Europol did this amazing graphic for the operation called Operation RapTor. And we'll put it in the show notes. And this operation was huge. It coordinated law enforcement from all these countries, the US, Germany, the UK, France, Austria, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Spain, South Korea, and Brazil, which I know I said that fast, but that's 4 continents worth of law enforcement. They seized 2 tons of drugs and they made 270 arrests, which sounds shocking if you think about it. But I guess 270 people can't go on the lam effectively. It's just hard for all those people to do that. So I was really impressed, and I was grateful to see Europol doing some great, social media ready publicity for the whole thing.
The coordination effort in it is just spectacular. And on the US side, shout out to all the big names were in there, right? DA, CBP, SBI, FDA, also the IRS, because that's always a wonderful charge to quickly do in the US, money laundering or wire fraud. And so the IRS was in there. But the sheer scale is staggering. So the market that they took out is the incognito market. It was an online narcotics bazaar, started in 2020. And between 2020 and 2024, it sold more than $100 million worth of narcotics. Like, that's a lot of narcotics to be sold. And that's just what they could prove. And it's so, big kudos that they do these operations and take these out. And what I love is that not just was the website taken down and assets taken, but 270 people for now in custody. And so that's a nice disruptor. So very nice.
Law enforcement has been getting better and better and better at infiltrating these marketplaces, at collecting evidence, at making the prosecution stick, at tracing the Bitcoin funds and proceeds and seizing them. I just think you can't make the crime go away, but if law enforcement is continuing to pluck at it and get better at doing the job, they deserve our support. And so I was really happy to see this, and happy to see Europol doing a good job of trumpeting their success. I just think that that's a big part of law enforcement, is making sure people appreciate the work that gets done.
Yeah, Europol is a really good PR shop. They pump out a lot of good news, talk about it. They produce some incredible reports each year about organized crime, how organized crime works. So they do a very nice job. I agree with you on that.
So what did you see in the news?
Mine and news a little bit on the lighter side, not pill death, but a terrific seizure by U.S. Customs and Border Protection out of the port of Houston. They seized over $7 million worth of counterfeit Apple chargers. And that was 373,000 counterfeit USB Lightning chargers. And that was 7,460 cartons. So that's basically a container full of fake Apple chargers. Again, total worth $7 million. And the customs agents said the phone chargers bore the Apple trademark, and the Apple brand protection team was brought in, confirmed that, and they seized it under, trademark violation Lanham Act, and the entire load was confiscated and destroyed. And so it's always nice to see that. It's also very rare these days to find entire containers or a pretty sizable load of 7,000 cartons of a single item. So good work by customs, good work by the Apple team. And it's always nice to see that, they're trying to make sure these things, especially as they're, not safe either and can cause a fire when you put them into your phone and all that, are being kept from getting to the market.
I think about, obviously the obvious problem is faulty product, especially when dealing with electricity or with helmets or car seats or airbags. The product itself can either fail to perform when it needs to protect you, or it can catastrophically fail and create a hazard. But it was just recently when people were talking about the discovery of kill switches in solar inverters by Chinese manufacturers that I realized that there was also a potential for nefarious activity, right? What happens when tens of thousands of Apple chargers get a kill switch command, right? I think that's probably not a major national security risk, but there's definitely, I think, something to think about in here, right? Where that there's potential national security implications from counterfeit products that are brought into the country.
Oh yeah, 100%. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, wow. Okay, well, good work by them. The interesting thing for me was, so they seized it under violation of the Apple trademark. When you look at the actual seizure, and we'll have the link in the show notes, the brand that they actually ripped off more was Anchor, who do amazing charging.
I love Anchor charging. Yeah.
So when you look at the fake logo, it's basically the Anchor charge with the E a little bit offset. So it's more their logo violation. But somewhere on the pictures that CBP shared, you don't really see a very prominent Apple logo. But I bet you that somewhere on that packaging was like a compatible with Apple devices, like a little Apple or something on there. And the Apple team brought it in and said, and for that, we're seizing it. So it really showed for me the capabilities, experience, and sophistication of the Apple team. They have been, the leading brand protection department in the US for decades. They do amazing work. And so, for me, great work by that team. And it's amazing. And obviously seizing $7 million is a lot, but I know you found something with even more and other money involved, right?
So, yeah, I've been tracking these reports of fake currency for a while now. And it was striking to me because it was fake currency in these small towns. And there's, what happened was that they found in Michigan, in what looked like not a house of a person who would have $100,000 of currency, $100,000 of currency. And the low-res photo of the raid looks to me like it was all $100 bills, right? It was a
Wow.
100 grand in Benjamins, as they would say. And the guy totally busted himself, in my opinion. He went and he bought a drone, possibly from another person, not from a vendor, but from an individual. I'm going to guess on Facebook Marketplace, because that's where all the worst person-to-person transactions happen these days. And used $800 in fake currency. So 8 fake $100 bills, presumably. And the seller realized that the money was fake, that he'd been ripped off, and he reported him. And that cascade caused the police to show up at his house and take away the other $99,200 that he presumably had. And we've seen these stories for a while now. Arkansas, Georgia. I've just been seeing these reports of fake currency. So there's somebody out there, there's a ring out there making it, or more than one ring probably. But it's not just obviously every country has currency. It's not just an American problem. Canada has a unique problem with fake currency in that there's people counterfeiting $2 coins. And they're a hefty coin. If you've ever handled one, I'm sure you have. It's a sizable object. It probably has a value in metal alone. And
the loonie.
I think is the toonie the $2 one? I think the toonie may be the $2
Oh, right.
one.
You're right. The $2 is a toonie.
And India's also got this problem as well. And India actually was trying to address a lot of issues, including money laundering, by reducing the number of large dollar banknotes that they printed, which is not a terrible idea since many of us don't carry cash. But yeah, I've been watching this, and this problem is not a problem that's going away. It's actually morphed and mutated over the years, and it's fascinating to watch.
It is fascinating. I agree. Like, when we curate the stories each week, you're right. We've been seeing these like smaller, and it seems to get bigger. And what's interesting, while the $20 bill is still the most counterfeited bill out there, like most folks counterfeit 20s because a 20 is easier to mix into things. Hundreds folks will check if it's fake or not. And so the 20 is still the most counterfeited. But for me, it started to spark. And so I did a little bit of research. If this might be a comeback of like a $100 super note, right? Remember the $100 fake super note that was circulating between the 80s and early 2000s? And that super note, for the folks that don't remember what that was, the super note was a fake $100 bill that was so convincing that short of the US Mint, folks couldn't figure out that it was not real. And it was believed to be an insider job where folks got their hand on actual paper and an actual plate, and that it was almost not counterfeit. It was basically just really, really printing with actual US materials. It took them a while to take it out. We hadn't seen large $100 counterfeits since they introduced a new bill in 2013. And so we'll see if it makes a comeback. Fun side note for everybody. It's always my favorite fact about the US currency. Our US currency is actually not made out of paper. It is made out of a mixture of linen and cotton. So it is the 25% linen and cotton mixture, with red and blue fibers distributed randomly throughout to make imitation even more difficult. So we are one of the few banknotes in which you feel us versus a euro. Euro is paper with some plastic, and we are cotton that gives the Union's currency this unique feel. And it also makes it incredibly hard to counterfeit normally. But you're right. It'll be interesting to see if that makes a comeback or if that's just a blip. But yeah, that seizure was rather large.
For everybody that's not obsessed with counterfeit money, one of the things that I learned over the past couple of years is that there's two kinds of counterfeit money cases that you see. The one is actual good-looking counterfeits meant to look perfect, and the other is people who take things that look like money and pass them off. Sometimes they've printed their own. Sometimes they buy film money. Right. So I've actually bought this before. I had to undergo a lot of questioning from the seller before he would let me have it. But it's money for use in a film as a prop. And I was doing a murder mystery day for my staff of the previous company that I founded and owned and sold called Mindshare Internet Campaigns. And we did like a day retreat. And one of them was I designed a murder mystery, and I needed there to be a number of piles of $100 wrapped bills at where the body was in the garage. And if you look closely at the money, it says this is film money, or this is for motion picture purposes only. But if you're not paying attention and you're out in the world, so you're working at a bar and someone hands you that 100 and it's busy and you're in a hurry, if you don't see that printing on it that says it's film money, then you might fall for it.
Yeah, with the film money, is like, I don't know. If anybody hands me 100, I'm gonna double check. No, I'm just saying. Even my friends, I'm like, is that real?
You and I don't live at the income level where the $100 bill is not examined.
Yes, I don't roll around with the Benjamins. That is true. But so yeah, with the film money, it's interesting. Anyways, it'll be really interesting to see if these money seizures increase. So we get some quick takes we want to get on, right, for the end of the show.
Yeah. I did my one on the heel of the world civil case. What have you got?
So mine is, it's really a quick one. It's a cool development. So in Switzerland, University of Lausanne, in connection with Pfizer, developed a new portable device that can detect counterfeit Viagra in seconds. Looks like a pen, and you take the pill and you just put the pen on, and within a second, that pen uses a certain amount of special infrared light that goes into the pill without destroying the pill. The resonance of the materials in the pill then will resonate some of the infrared light back. And because the researchers have studied real pills and know exactly how, it's almost like a radar image, how the pill is supposed to reflect back. If they put a fake under it, it'll say, nope, that's not a real. It doesn't have the exact composition that the pill has. And so they say it's 100% accurate. And for me, that's really cool because so far, detection of counterfeit medicines, if you just have a pill, is notoriously difficult, right? Oftentimes it involves crushing the pill, doing a chemical test, doing field tests. If you have something very easy that's like a pen, you just hold it against it, and that pen is linked to a database where every manufacturer said this is what the genuine pill, kind of the radar image, so to speak, or length image it has to throw back is there. That could be a really cool, groundbreaking technology if it pans out that it works in the larger world. So I thought the research was really cool. Comes out of the University of Lausanne, and they want to broaden it out to others. And they started with Viagra because it is to date still, besides M30 counterfeits, the largest counterfeit pill in the world.
From my end, and I'm going to do a longer interview. I've spoken to the founder of this lab. I would call it Grover Lab. It's Dr. William Grover at the University of California, I think Riverside, not Irvine. But they have basically, I'm sorry, it is Riverside, UC Riverside. He's basically got going a lab where they work with students in this really cool interdisciplinary way to develop things that protect patients from falsified medicines in a cheap way. And he's got a couple of examples, and I'll do more of them in the interview. But the one that really caught my eye is they have a technique for using a low-cost musical instrument to detect whether or not a cough syrup has been adulterated with antifreeze, which, if you don't know, it's the PSM staff automatic outrage trigger, is that there's so many people around the world, including so many children, who've died because criminal, immoral manufacturers put antifreeze in their cough syrup to give it a sweet taste and a thickening agent. And it's really dangerous. It's been really deadly. And it's still a problem, even 20 years later, since I started working on these issues. And the idea that they've got like a really simple product that you could use to detect this, I think, is really cool. But overall, I feel like he's almost like he's running his little Area 51, startup. Let's try all these different things, and it's just cool to me that there's someone out there doing that. So I'm gonna schedule him for a longer.
Let's get a guest. Let's get him on this pod.
I may steal him for the Partnership for Safe Medicines podcast before I let him come here.
Fine. Greedy.
We'll find a non-substandard and falsified medicines guest, and we'll interview them.
Yes, sir.
All right. We'll put all that in the show notes. Thank you, Sven. Nice to see you again.
Please do. Well, Shabir, was great seeing you. Please read us out.
The Imitation Nation podcast is a production of Cause Stories and is the sole owner of this production. Podcast production by Shabir Imber-Safdar. Podcast management by Sarah Imber-Safdar. Theme music written by Jonathan Boyle.